Looks like we are live. Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Welcome to another exciting episode of Living Proof with yours truly, the Love Alchemist. And today, our guest, Brother James.
Yes,
James,
sir.
man, I gotta let me jump in here real quick and grab your bio. Can't believe I wasn't ready for that, but I gotta introduce the family. Give them a snapshot of who we dealing with, because
Yes, sir.
this ain't just no ordinary guest right here. So, man, Brother James Gifford is the founder of Project Men United and also the host of the Juda's Den show. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about manhood and what does it take to be a man and how different manhood, or is it different? Is manhood different today than it was for our grandfathers? First things first, though, in case I left anything out about yourself, introduce yourself, share anything that you would like to share, and then if you could cap that off with an explanation about what Project Men United is.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, I'm James Gifford. A lot of people that tune into my show know me as Brother James. Yeah, I'm a husband of 25 years, two daughters, three grandsons. Project Men United is, it's an organization that my brother Des Robinson and I came up with. And basically what it does is it's more detailed now than what we had when we first started. But it's a men's organization. And the reason why we called it Project Men United, because we're always learning, we're always building, we're always getting better. You know, whenever you get to a place where you feel like you got it, that's when you're going to learn that you actually don't have it. It shows men how to transition, not only from being a physical boy to a physical man, but also know how to transition mentally, whether it's dealing with your family, whether it's dealing with you as an individual, individually first. But when it comes to family, whether you're raising daughters or sons, your wife, it just teaches men a lot about themselves that they don't necessarily know, so because there was a lot of times where I was at that place where I thought that I was there. I thought I had it all together. And then I ran into some more men and women that showed me that there was much more to learn, that learning is a process. So if you see our logo is back here, you probably can't see it. The logo itself is attached to houses. And the reason why we attached that logo to houses is because the one thing that a man and a house have in common is they always an upkeep. Men always have to upkeep themselves. We always have to, there's always something that's going to go wrong that we have to make sure that we take care of in order for us to function in a society. We are an organization that we hear excuses, but we also find solutions as well. So we reach out to a lot of people just to let that man see that there's another side to you than you've been taught. Not to say that your family taught you wrong, but there's something else in you that you have not discovered yet. And maybe if you discover that, you'll be surprised at the kind of man you become. So that's pretty much the foundation of it.
Right on, right on. Look, there are, and also tell them a little bit about the Juda's Den show.
The Juda's Den show was basically started because of that, the word Judah stands for basically the tribe of Judah, or the Messiah himself. And the word den is an acronym for determination, effort, and necessity. In every successful endeavor, those are three qualities that you have to possess. You have to be determined, you have to put forth the effort, and you have to do what's necessary in order to be successful in any area of your life. And so it was just something that I put together that I just wanted to come on and share my gift. I have a gift of speaking, and I give God all the praise for that. And so I just come on and just share ideas and just share anything that the Most High has laid on my heart to help any and everybody. It started out as me speaking to men, but as we know it, when women saw it, men and women, several different women reached out to me, and so then it just transitioned over to whoever the message is for. This is who the message is for. So it's just something that I want to do, man. It was just it started out as a hobby. It's something I did, and all of a sudden it just turned into something else. So I went from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok and YouTube, and so I just been going from there.
Dig that. I'm going to jump right on into it, man, because some of the reasons that I brought you on here, we've done several shows together, had several conversations, And like you, I'm a big proponent in having quality men around me, and I count you in that number. Right. There are several principles of manhood, like perseverance, tenacity, dedication, and to me, you embody those principles, right? And so I want to show the family real quick. You just went through something very recently, a surgery.
Yep.
And let me see if I can pull this up on my screen and show. Let's see, where'd it go? Let me see, where'd it go? What I do with it? I want to show the family some shots of that nabbit. What I do with it? Let's see. Here we go. All right. This is you. Let's see if I can share my screen here. I'm not nearly as good at this stuff as I'd like to be, but share your screen. All right. Can y'all see that?
No, I'm not seeing it on my end.
You can't see it? Oh, man. Let me see. Okay, there we go. Let's see if I can share it now. It's not coming up. Oh, go on. I wanted to share it. Let me see. Okay, there we go. All this new computer stuff, man. Still not showing.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. That's one picture. That's you in the hospital bed.
Yeah.
Following, tell us a little bit about the surgery as you and the procedure and everything that led to this as I continue to show these other pictures.
Okay. What happened was it was back in June. I experienced a slight seizure. And thank God I was at home, and my wife, I was in bed with my wife, and she woke up, and I was I was having a seizure. She said it lasted probably a few seconds. When I woke up, paramedics was in my room. I didn't remember anything about it, and I was able to get up. I was able to explain where I was, and so I was able to go downstairs and get into the ambulance myself. So from that point up until now, I've been, I was out of work. My job took care of me. And when I went and got checked, they said I had a tumor in my brain. It wasn't laying in my brain, but it was like hovering over my brain. It was a non-cancerous tumor that it had to be removed. And of course, we talked about the radiation and we talked about medication and stuff. And he was like, no, he said those things could work, but it can go south. And so my wife and I, we talked about it, and we thought that the best thing to do was just go ahead and have the surgery. So we went through it. The surgery was on August the 13th, I think August 11th, 13th, somewhere in there. And it was a 4.5-hour surgery. And so the photo that you saw at first, I had came out of it that day. And of course, I don't remember anything about it. All I remember is they taking me back and putting me under. And I remember this one nurse was sitting there. She was holding my hand, and she was basically cracking jokes. And as I was laughing, next thing I know, I'm waking up. And as I'm waking up, I can hear all these nurses and doctors in my room. And, I was conscious. I was able to hear everything. I was able to remember everything. And on that first photo, I had just came out from under the anesthesia that they had put me under. But yeah, I had a tumor in my brain. It was about 4.5 centimeters. And so it was hovering over the nerve, within my brain that leads up to, he showed me this vessel where strokes occur. And of course, they told me everything that could occur with this type of operation. And so, like I said, it lasted 4.5 hours. But the good part about it is, and I give the Most High all praise for this, I had the surgery on a Wednesday morning. By Friday afternoon, I was home. Wow. And of course, it took, your motor skills and all these things were still, it wasn't quite there yet. I still didn't have, I experienced, it wasn't no necessarily weakness on one side, but just on my left side, my brain and my left side, they were out of sync. So I looked down at something with my left hand, and then my mind, it says pick it up, but my left side hesitated. So that went on for quite a while. The good thing about it is the nurse there, she told me everything that I would go to. I saw her for about a couple of seconds, when they took me back for my MRI. And, over time, I just took my time. I was getting a little anxious at first. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Because when certain things are taken away from you, then you see how important it is. And so over time, everything started working, started back working normal. I just took my time, and my wife, I cannot say enough about her. I've always, been in love with my wife for 25 years. Well, we've been together 26 years, been married 25 years as of last month. So my wife was definitely the words can't even explain it. How my wife really, really stepped in and took care of me. She did things that I always say this: every successful endeavor requires a certain level of sacrifice. And so my wife really sacrificed a lot to make sure that I was taken care of, so she was a champion. And I think the bright spot of that was when they got ready to take me back, they called her and said, well, we're getting ready to take him into surgery. They called her again like an hour later, said he's in surgery now. He just went under. They called her back like an hour later. He's still in surgery. So they continued to call her. Then she got a phone call some hours later, and she was expecting it to be the doctor. And when she answered the phone, it was me, And so just to hear her voice, man, that, just to hear her voice, man, that was an experience. But yeah, that's pretty much how it went, man. So,
I like that you kind of led right into where I wanted to go next. I was listening to the actor Michael Jai White, and he was talking about his wife. I think I got a picture of him here for the family in case y'all don't know who he is. He played Black Dynamite. I think he was Black Dolomite.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can flash this picture up here real quick for the family. I'm getting good at this share thing now, I think. Michael Jai White. He like I said, he played what's the brother? What did he play? He's a huge karate guy. He's into fitness. Him and his wife, they do a lot for what do you call it? Fitness, and they do relationship stuff. I don't know why I can't share. But anyway, the point is, I'm gonna move on from that.
Yeah, Spawn.
Spawn. There you go.
Y'all said Spawn, yeah.
Yep, that's it right there. And so I was listening to him talk about his wife and how, he wasn't ready for marriage. And how, he had been a player for so long, and, Hollywood stuff, right? And but then he talked about how she gave him the type of trust and cooperation and the type of consideration that a wife would give her husband. And he said that it impacted him so much because he knew he didn't deserve that. And so, or he knew he hadn't yet earned that from her. And so he said that he had to work to become the man who was worthy of what she was offering. And so I was listening to you say something similar to that, how you weren't quite ready to be what your wife needed from you. And it resonated so deeply with me hearing both of y'all say that, because I was in a very similar situation. I wasn't ready. And so many men, I think, that this thing can apply to. And so we're living in the information age. And people are obsessed with statistics, but statistics don't quite offer context, right? And so one of the stats that's being touted is that of all of the divorces that are filed, women file for about 80% of those. Okay, so of all the divorces, that doesn't mean that 80% of women file. That just means of all the divorces that are filed, women initiate 80% of the time. So here's the point. With these statistics that are out here, I think as quiet as it's kept, to the point that Michael Jai White made about becoming the man that was worthy of that, and the point that you made about, I'll let you go into that a little bit more. You made a similar point, and I made a similar point, and I can't help but to think that this applies to a lot more than just the three of us. So, two questions. I think that as quiet as it's kept, that lack of preparation us not being ready to enter marriage and be what they need from us. I think that lack of preparation that we talked about, that I just mentioned, that it's a major contributor to why so many women might initiate those divorces. So, two questions. Why is it so common for us to not be prepared? And then the second thing, and you might want to take this one first if you want, what are some of the things that you did to prepare? I know you talked about that before, but just hit us with some of those things that you did to prepare yourself in the beginning, and also address why it's so common for us to not be prepared when we enter these serious relationships.
Right. I mean, prior to meeting my wife, I've always wanted to raise a family. That's just always been me. Did I make bad choices? Of course I did. Did those certain women that I didn't end up with make bad choices in me? Yes, they did, because I really wasn't ready at the time. But the thing was, I've always wanted to have a wife, and I wanted to start a family because that's what I saw in front of me. But here's the thing. I was able to admit certain things, and that's what really opened the door, because a lot of this stuff is out here that is taught. And I made a post the other day. If you only search for one side of the narrative, those are the answers you're going to find. And so if I just listen to statistics, as you were saying, and what statistics say that 80% of the women who was actually filed, or they're the ones who initiate divorce, then if I just listen to that, I wouldn't be married today, because I allow that to be my common denominator as far as me building a relationship with any woman. But I've always been, I had my brother, my oldest brother, he always taught me to always judge things on both sides. Even the part that I don't want to hear, even if something that goes against my belief system, is still listen to it. He said, even if you don't get anything out of it, you will get something out of it. Even if it's just, you may meet this question later on in life. And so I always wanted to be married. And so when I finally met my wife, I'm not gonna lie, when that time came, I was so used to it. I'm just gonna be transparent here. I was always taught to keep a woman on the side, and that's what I always did. And I lost some good relationships because of that, because that's what I was taught as a kid. And I understood when I grew up, all they was trying to do was protect me. And the one thing they was trying to protect was my heart. And so, you do everything to protect your children, but it's like Robert Kiyosaki said, once you're in an ocean full of sharks, no matter how much you pray, you're still gonna get bit at some point. And so I understood that as a young man. And so once I met her, of course, she already had a daughter, and I also heard back in the day, because today is nothing new. I heard all this back in the day: don't ever date a woman that has a child. Don't ever date a single mother. Well, I knew her story. So going in, by me knowing her story, it didn't matter to me if she had a child or not. Even if I was single today, I still wouldn't go by that philosophy that I was taught, And so what I did was, of course I prayed and I said, God, I've lived this life as a single man, and I don't want to be tied down, even though in my heart, I did want to be married. And so prior to meeting her, me and the guys hung out one night, man, and I came home intoxicated, man. I'm laying across the bed. I was just done. I was just done with the whole, going to clubs, meeting women and all this. I was just done. I was done with the whole thing, man. So when I finally met her and I knew we were going in that direction, what I did was I got myself in front of men who had successful relationships. I did whatever I had to do to get in front of men. When I was the church I was in, I immediately joined the men's ministry. And I'm glad I did, because for the first 5 years of our marriage, I went to probably 4 to 5 or 6 different men's conferences a year. There was a time, and I shared this story with you, I sat on the floor for about 2.5 hours just taking notes, because there was no seats in the house in the building that night at this men's conference, because I wanted to know, okay, what do I need to do to be the man that I'm supposed to be? What do I need to do as far as by me being in my home and being the leader that I'm supposed to be? At that time, I didn't understand the term leadership. All I heard from a bunch of toxic men was, you are the head of the household, but you wasn't explaining that to me. What do you mean head of the household? Didn't understand it. Yeah, I saw it written. What does that mean? And so what I did was, instead of waiting on the pastor to preach about it, I did my due diligence in going to talk to men and women, because I was at a conference one time when a man said that, well, you know how these women get in their moods. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean mood? Because me personally, I don't mind sitting in the middle of church, raising my hand like, yo, I didn't understand what you just said, you know? And so I did, I raised my hand. Finally, he said, we'll have questions later. But to me, it seemed like he was trying to just end the conference. And when I held my hand long enough, I just stood up, you know? And because maybe when I saw that in the movie Malcolm, you know, when I saw that, I laughed, you know. So I just raised my hand. I just stood up, you know. And so he couldn't help but ask me, what do you need? And I was like, what do you mean by women being in their moods? What do you mean by that? And he said, how long you been married? I said, 2 years. He said, you'll find out later. Didn't give me the answers that I need. Right. So I continued my search. So I guess in short, what I can say, you know, I wanted to be married, and the woman that I was getting married to, I wanted to actually be with her. And I understood, and it didn't take Will Smith to tell me, but Will Smith did make a point. I can't make my wife love me. The only thing I can do is do the best I can as a man, you know, do the best I can, and hopefully she will. You know, everything is a risk. But I remember something that Les Brown said. He said, if you're not willing to risk, you can't grow. And if you can't grow, you can't become your best. And if you can't become your best, you can't be happy. And if you can't be happy, then what else is there? And so, yes, I took a chance. So did she. And I think that she took a bigger chance on me than I took on her because she had a daughter, you know? And so when I saw that, I was, wow, instantly now I'm getting ready to be a husband and a father. Well, son, this is what you said you wanted, you know? And so, like I said, I got around men such as yourself, such as Brother Garthion, Brother John, and I asked questions. I couldn't financially afford a counselor at the time. So I couldn't pay that money to pay a counselor to talk to a counselor. But if I could, I would have. So I got myself in position. I talked to several different men who had good relationships and men who had failed relationships. And I sat down and I talked to them. And I guess that too is what really led me into starting the Judas Den show as well, you know, even though that was that long ago. But once I was getting the answers, we went into this marriage. You know, I knew what she wanted because we had conversations. She knew what I wanted. I knew that there was a lot of demons I was dealing with, but at the same time, I understood she had those as well. So I just did my homework, man. I just did my due diligence because I wanted it to work. And my attitude was, Brother Vaughn, is if it doesn't work, it won't be because of me. You know? And so that's what I did. I just sought out answers, man. I just didn't sit around on my hands and just complain. I went out and did my due diligence.
So I asked this question, what are some of the things that, or why is it so common for us to not be prepared? And Brother Yardley says, I think that the relationship that men have with their mother is a strong contributing factor to how they deal with women. Address that, and also just kind of add your own perspective to why you think that it's so common for men to show up. And I know that women show up unprepared too. I'm not dealing with that right now. We're talking about manhood, right? So from our perspective, for what we can contribute to the relationship or how we show up, why is it so common that for us to show up to the relationship unprepared?
Because we don't understand, you know, a lot of us don't understand. I'm not gonna say everybody, but a lot of us don't understand the seeds you sow today, you will reap that harvest later. That's just a principle. Okay, so one of the things that just going back to what Yali said, you know, your relationship with your mother and how you and your mother communicate can have an effect on, you know, you and a woman, or you choosing a woman. It can. But here's the thing. Here's how that can be dangerous. Depending on your relationship with your mother, you know, mom always pick you up. Mom always wipe you off. Mom always tell you she love you. Mom always cuddle you. Mom always say it's going to be all right, baby. Mom will give you that excuse. Okay. Because mothers don't want to, especially back in the day. I don't know about today, but especially back in the day. So what I did was once coming out of it, I expected women to be like her. You know, when I'm down, pick me up. You know, when I'm hurting, you know, let me know that everything's going to be all right. But then I ran into this lioness that I have right now, you know. So now I'm dirty. Can you clean me? No. You're a grown man. Clean yourself, you know. And so that was the purpose of me getting around other men, because this is what other men taught me. And so we have to be very, very careful about that. Though I do agree with y'all, that does happen with so many of us, you know. But the dangerous part of that is whatever that relationship you have with you and your mother, you're not going to necessarily get that with your woman. That's just not the way it's going to be, because you got to understand something. There's a reason why your mother did what she did for you. But then you got this other lady, you got this lady in your life now. She's been through some stuff. Okay, some stuff you don't even know about because many of us never ask. We just looking, in my case, I was being sort of selfish. I was looking at my needs, not necessarily realizing, okay, my wife is carrying a burden too. So now she has to carry a burden, raise a daughter by herself, and then take care of this child who's supposed to be her husband, you know? And so to not take care of you first and go into something unprepared, especially when we're men and we go to a lot of women who are actually established, because my wife was established when I got there. I was direct. I was the one with the roommates and the hanging out every night and going to the clubs and all these things. And it became a religion to me to watch football every Sunday. That became a religion to me. And the reason why I say religion, because I was so committed to it, not realizing that, hold on, son, you got another person in your life now, a wife and a daughter, okay? So now not only are you going to be a husband, now you are a father. Right. And see, even with the daughter, there's issues there too. Okay. And so I couldn't look at my mother, even though I wanted someone like that, even though my mother was a very stern woman, she still is to this day. But my mother, a lot of times, especially when it comes to sons, a lot of mothers, not all, a lot of mothers will make excuses for their sons' mess ups. You know, they know their son is out here screwing up. And a lot of time, not all, I want everyone to hear me now, not all, but a lot of mothers make excuses when their son mess up, make excuses when their son falls, make excuses for give their son somewhere to lay his head, because their son don't understand that once you get out here in life, this is a whole different ball game. And so I pat myself on the back, and I also pat them on the back, because once I left home, I never had to come back. It's not that I didn't want to come back, but I was able to handle the situations out here as a man. So once I met my wife, then I don't bring all that garbage to her. I did have that understanding, but that came from me seeking wise counsel and me being upfront with what I was feeling, you know. And so we make that mistake when we come in something unprepared, because yes, it's going to take money. Yes, it's going to take paying bills. Yes, it's going to take upkeep of the marriage, upkeep of yourself, knowing what the other one wants, being the man you're supposed to be in that time. You know, during that time, sometimes your wife, you may need to talk to her. Sometimes you may need to console her. Sometimes you may need to comfort her. You got to understand what you need to be in that time. And so when we go in this unprepared, you got two people in the house with egos battling against each other. And a lot of times it doesn't turn out the way it should be.
Let me, before I go, I was going to go into another question, but before I do, I want to give a shout out to the brother Quasi Black. I'm going to put his name in the chat. He sent this shirt, Black Wealth Matters. My logo is in the way. My name is in the way, but y'all see that? Black Wealth Matters, close the gap, right? I think that's a pretty dope shirt. So I'm going to put his name in the chat real quick. Y'all, shout out to the brother Quasi Black. If you're listening, Quasi Black. If you're listening, brother, put your information in there so they can reach out to you, and so they can get those shirts. These shirts are pretty nice and they're relevant too, I think.
Absolutely.
You know, you touched on something a minute ago that I think is real serious that we're dealing with, that a lot of men are dealing with, that we don't really talk much about. And so mental health, right? Mental health, depression, just unhealthy thinking, and so one of the reasons that I kind of have this idea that be kind to everyone, right? Be kind, because everybody's going through a battle that you know nothing about, right? And this idea of depression and mental health challenges is so important. You know, I heard a man say once that the most important conversation, the most significant conversation you'll ever have is the one that you have with yourself, right? Self-talk is critically important. So do me a favor and talk to us a little bit about mental health challenges and depression, and just kind of the what it looks like to deal with that and even overcome that.
Right. And man, that's powerful there, because I realized just recently, I'm 55 years old, and I just realized a couple of weeks ago that if I go all the way back to, and this is why I always say, whatever you consistently give your mind to develops you, and it opens your mind to some things. And I always say this to men: you have to be open and you have to be honest with yourself. One of the worst things you could ever do to yourself is not be honest with yourself. Just a few weeks ago, I realized that back in my 30s and maybe all of my 40s, I walked in depression. I was just depressed. Didn't realize it because, go ahead.
All of your 30s and all your 40s. So you're talking about almost 20 years?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
And the thing about it is, I didn't realize I was depressed. Didn't realize it because I really didn't, because I had this misconception of what depression was. Thank God that, and thank God it never spilled into my marriage to the point where I physically or mentally abused my wife and girls. I was able to hold that under control because I love them so much. But looking back over my life, when it was at a point, and I'm just going to be an open book right now. I really hated myself. I hated myself. I really did. I went through all the motions, but when I really start to understand what it meant, and I listened to this sister do a lecture the other day, and she was going on and on about mental health. And, even I had my own definition of what mental health was, but she went more into detail about it. And I was just watching this on a TED Talk, and I began to just sit here and I began to just think about it, and I look back over my life. When you are depressed, you don't even care about yourself. You do just enough to get along. I was going to work every day. That was my therapy. Just go to work. Forget about it. I would go to work every day, do my job, come home. That was it. I hang out with my friends and we'll go out. And in order for me to talk to women, I would have to get drunk first. I have to get high first. Because once you get high, you're inebriated. You really don't care what you do. And so I went through that a long time, just not really loving myself for whatever reasons. It wasn't my parents' fault. It was just me. I just couldn't handle the challenges of life, And so I went through that stage of abandonment. Because I didn't understand certain things, the two that I call my wife and father now, they're not my biological parents. My biological mother passed away when I was 4 months old. My biological father passed away when I was 4th grade. He gave me to my grandmother and my aunt and my uncle, whom I call my parents today. So in my mind, even though they explained it to me, in my mind, I felt like, okay, you kept my other 2 brothers. Why didn't you keep me? And so I didn't have no understanding. And so at that moment, I began to hate a man that I never knew. And I walked with that. And some people say, get over it. That's easier said than done. I used to do that. I used to say that same thing. Get over it. Be a man. But you got to know who you're talking to. You got to know the person. If you're really concerned about a person getting well, you got to know who you're talking to. Just like my girls. I can't approach one of my daughters the way I approach the other one. So I ran through that for a long time. And I'm telling you, with being depressed, you miss out on so much. So many things that you could be. You'll start, in my case, you start abusing yourself. Meaning I just didn't care, weight spin out of control, hygiene, all that stuff. You just didn't care. You didn't care what, then here's a trap. I got to a point, and I tell people to really be careful when you say this. I got to a point where I said, I really don't care what other people think of me. Even though that sounds positive, but in my head, I was saying, I hate everybody. Not realizing that those people didn't know what I was going through. They couldn't recognize it, and at that moment, I was not voicing it. So I held all this stuff in, and then you start dealing with certain health problems because you don't realize the importance of understanding depression. And that was me, and the fascinating thing about it was, and I say fascinating because I didn't realize that I was actually in that state until a couple of weeks ago. You see what I mean? And so because I was able to walk out, and a friend of mine told me, he said, now you understand what it means to be born again. He said, because now it's resonating. He said, what you was told before about being born again is much more broader than that. And so once I realized all the pain and suffering that I took myself through, then I was able to understand, like, wow, I was actually depressed. I hated myself. I hated looking at myself in the mirror. I was always trying to do something to impress people. I was always trying to do something to impress women. It wasn't so much as me trying to impress women as it was wanting to be accepted. You know, go ahead.
Yardley said, I ran through women in my 20s and 30s, married or not. And I think that speaks to kind of what you're talking about, the pain of trying to manage that depression. Mm-hmm. And you know, they say hurt people hurt people.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. Hurt people hurt people. And I was looking at this this quote. I'm gonna put this up here real quick. Mm-hmm. Kendrick Lamar. I don't quote a lot of rappers, but he had this quote. Let me see, where is it at? He said, I always thought it was me against the world. Then one day I realized it's just me against me.
Yep.
And so I'm just kind of trying. I want to kind of pivot just slightly as it pertains to this depression and the overcoming of it and battling against it. Do you think that, let me rephrase that. How much control do you think we actually have over these thoughts of depression? Because, let me preface by saying this. I heard a man say, I've never dealt with depression. Let me start there. So I don't want to minimize it, but I heard a man say that one of the greatest weapons that we have against thoughts of depression is our ability to choose one thought over the other.
Right.
And so in conjunction with this this quote by Kendrick Lamar, it was just me against me. I thought it was me against the world, but it's me against me. Tell me what you think about those two things, as far as how do you reconcile that? Does it resonate with you? What do you think about battling depression, overcoming depression? How much control do we really have when it comes to that?
Well, you know, each one of them is a goal. You know, each one of them is a goal. You have those thoughts that try to lead you one way in a more toxic manner. Then you have those thoughts that lead you in a manner of receiving your healing. Both thought processes have a goal. If you only gravitate to one, then you're more likely going to get conquered by the other. Let me explain. If I believe that all women are bad, I will search for answers to prove my point. Okay. When someone else comes along and say, no, that's not true, brother. The only women that are bad are the women that you choose. Okay. Now I do not want to blame myself. Okay. Because now I'm trying to preserve. Remember, now it's all about acceptance. And the one thing depression does, it sometimes and I posted something earlier today, and I remember it was Les Brown that said he was on the phone with one of his friends, and his friend was telling him to go on and start his business or whatever the case may be in speaking. And Les Brown kept telling him why not, why he couldn't do it. And he said, next thing you know, the phone went dead. And he was looking like, wait a minute, hold on, something happened. Called his friend back, and he said, wait, did the phone get disconnected? He said, no, I hung up on you. He was like, what do you mean? He said, if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. You see? And so when it comes to, it all depends on what you focus on the most. I want the challenges to come. I can say that real clearly now. And so because if we focus only on the toxic side, those are the answers we're going to get. It's going to validate who we think we are, who we say we are, and ultimately we're going to think that we're right. But we have to have something that counters it. And one of the reasons why I say when you're thinking in a more positive, productive way, one of the reasons why I say that toxicity, I guess I'm saying that right, has to come in, because you need to understand that life is full of challenges. Fitness expert Tony Horton, the creator of P90X, said, with challenge comes change. Okay. And so one of the things that I did, I was able to look at life and say, you know what, no matter what road I'm going down, I'm going to be challenged, you know, but I just got to pick that road that I'm going to go down. Which one is more positive? Which one is more productive? There was a story, even in the story, Alice in Wonderland, say she was walking down this road, came to a fork in the road. She didn't know which one to take. So she asked the cat sitting in a tree, which road should I take? And the cat said, where are you going? She said, I don't know. He said, well, any road will get you there.
That's right.
And so you have to pick that road. You have to know, okay, you have to sit down with yourself and basically analyze, brothers, we got to do work. If I take this path, where's it going to lead me? You need to know where it's going to lead you. If I take this path, where's it going to lead me? You got to know where it's going to lead. Because even if you take the positive path, you're going to get some negativity. You're going to get some clapback. You're going to get some old feelings that's going to come back and try to knock you off course. As the scripture teaches us, a dog returning to his own vomit. So you're going to run into it again. But the thing about it is, once you understand that this challenge is a way of life, then you will be able to conquer it more. Not that you're expecting it, but once it comes, you now know what to do in order to fight back on it. So it is so important, because depression is, I mean, it's deep, brother. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah.
Depression is deep. I'm telling you, man. You get to the point where you, like I said, brother, I hated myself. And I would do things just to, go ahead.
We need men to be around, man. Like, you know, you and I were talking backstage before the show, and the importance of having men, a circle of men around you who are, you know, higher level thinkers, just constructively thinking type of brothers. And then also, look, there are a lot of us who don't have that safe space. Like you explained to me how you shared that intimate moment with your wife where you actually cried with her about what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
But a lot of us don't have that, right? And so for those of us who don't have that, it's important to surround yourself to the best of your ability to get around healthy-minded men, constructive thinking men, because they can be a sounding board or a shaping tool. They say iron sharpens iron, right? And so that's critically important. You know, what you feed your mind is also, or I should say, what comes out of your mind is a byproduct of what you feed your mind. Right? So, man, I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yes, sir.
Family, do me a favor. You're in here. Hit that like button, share this video, invite a friend. We got a few minutes. We got about 20 minutes left. And Brother James is dropping some serious gems.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't want to cut you off, but I really want to tap on the point where you said with my wife. Yeah. You know, because it needed to come out. It needed to come out. So yes, I sat in front of my wife and I shed tears.
Yes, sir.
Because when you get to that stage where you're ready to deal with this stuff, you got to let this stuff out, because there is a sensitive side to you. It's not anything that's going to make you be less of a man. And I understand that now. You're not less of a man because you shed tears. I saw a gentleman the other day telling his son was really showing some emotions because of something that a gift that he had received. And the young man shed tears, and he had other guys around him laughing. And his dad said, "Wipe those tears." No, let that young man shed those tears. Let him feel that emotion, and then you explain it to him. But the problem is, many of us have not shared that side of us. So when our sons are showing that side, we have to go and sit down with them and say, "Listen, this is normal for a grown or a man to cry, and you still be a man." But if you have not seen that, as you say, this is why it's so important to build relationships.
That's right.
You know, because we started Project Men United, we had a conference where all the men came, you know, and we was in there talking about different subjects, because even though myself and my other brothers were speakers, the men got an opportunity in the crowd to speak, share their stories, share their solutions, and all these things. And there were brothers in that crowd who got better answers from the brothers out there in the crowd with them than they got from the brothers on the stage. And that's what we was after. Yeah. As long as you get it, you got it.
You know, this is important, man. That Brother Guerin says, thanks for the program. This is really important. And this is why I got into this space, man. Partly, I mean, of course, you know, I do the relationship part and counseling and things like that. But I love working with brothers who are in this space of need, man, because I don't know how many of us are out here doing this work, but I appreciate being that sounding board and being able to offer perspectives that improve people's lives. But to the point that you just made, here's a quote. I love sharing these quotes with you because, you know, you look. I'm gonna tell the family what I tell you every time we talk. Brother James is a wealth of wisdom. And every time I talk to this brother, he makes me want to read. Every time I'm done talking to this brother, I'm like, man, I got to go read, because this brother, he'll put some fat on your head if you listen to him.
Right. I appreciate that.
There's this quote that says, "To a man who only has a hammer in his toolkit, every problem looks like a nail. Now, I raised that because you were just talking about all these different ways that you deal with, from how you deal with just being aware of dealing with your daughters individually, differently, and dealing with the thoughts of depression, and even being cognizant enough to allow yourself to have that type of emotional release with your wife, right? These are all tools, I will call them, that are available to us, and if we use them properly, right? So speak to the importance of a man bringing on learning and equipping himself with the capability to solve a wider array of problems, rather than internalizing these different frustrations and resentments and angers, and allowing those things to eat us up, rather than dealing with them constructively. Can you do that?
Right. There's something that I live by. When you fail to educate yourself, you allow others to make decisions for you. And so number one, I have to educate myself. Number two, I have to actually admit that there is a problem. See, when you hold something internally and you don't give this thing a release, it does something to you physically. It does something to your physical conditioning. And I learned this from therapists. I learned this from doctors. I learned this from you. I learned this from so many people, that when you internalize something and you don't allow those things to come out, it will mess you up. I mean, in your physical body, as long as you keep that stuff in. And so many times, and I even see this in movies. My wife and I were just talking about this today. We was watching a television show, and the fact that men will have a knife in their backs, and their wife or their friend will look over and say, "Hey man, you got a knife in your back." "Oh, I'm good." You bleeding to death. But inside, you are in pain. And you may say, "Well, I don't have anybody I can express this to." I think you do if you look hard enough.
We think that's manhood. We've been conditioned to think that hiding that pain is manhood.
Exactly. We think that we have to be hard. And yeah, we do. There's some things about us we do. Yeah, we have to have courage. We have to have tenacity. Yeah, I agree with that. We have to have the ability that when we get knocked back down, get back up. Yes, all of that is definitely needed. But at the same time, when you go into a gym, yes, you lift weights to get strong, but you also need technique, or else you'll end up injuring yourself. You can't go in the gym and work out for 8 hours. At some point, you got to take a break. You got to come back the next day. It's a work that we have to do. And so many of us, and myself included, we have bought into this system, like I was telling you about that television show, even though that's a television show where they spent hours putting that show together. That philosophy of men saying, "Oh, I'm okay," when you're actually hurt, is actually in these movies. Yeah. And all it does is constantly feed us with this stuff. And so many men say, "Well, it's worked for me this long, so I'm going to continue doing it." That's why I don't come to men no more and say, "Shut up and be a man." Because if he feels as though, okay, I'll give you an example. A man who calls his woman a B on the regular, and that woman doesn't respond to that, or she's gotten so used to that, and I've seen these, he feels like he's okay. So those type men, there's a certain approach that you have to those type men to see that they are doing this the wrong way, because that very same man will get mad at another man who calls his daughter or his mother or his grandmother one. So in his heart, he knows it's not right, but he has built up these habits. Whatever you consistently put into practice become habits, and those habits become a lifestyle. And so when we don't listen, when we don't open up, and we don't understand that when you internalize these things, you internalize these pain, you are killing yourself. Really, you're killing yourself. That's why the importance of relationships is so important. You need a brother you can just go share tears with. And to the brothers the men who are coming to you, sharing those tears, be compassionate enough to allow them to do it. Allow them to get that stuff out, because you don't realize that woman could be lying next to a narcissist. And I say this the same thing to a woman. Know the signs of depression. Know the signs of narcissists. Okay. You have to know the signs, because you may have that person laying right next to you. And so the way that women think, women can multitask in their minds, so you have to think like, okay, I can't watch Cardi B on BET tonight because I got to see what's going on laying next to me. So I can't get all caught up in the fact that Megan Good got divorced. I can't get caught up in that. I need to know what's in my house, because if I don't know the signs, I put myself and my children at risk.
That's right.
Then you got the brother over there that knows he's hurting. He knows he's hurting. Okay. And you expecting things to happen for you and they're not happening. You need to know how to go and deal with that, because internalizing that thing, we all act in different ways. You know, men say that women are more emotional. We're emotional too. You get mad and you call her a B, that's emotions. Yes, you get mad and pull out your gun, that's emotion. You get mad and slap her across the room, that's emotions. You yell at your kids. You go and try to get drunk to numb the pain, only for the pain to come back and still be sitting there in front of you. That's emotions. Yeah. So it is vitally important for us to understand that we can't keep this stuff in. We have to find somebody that we can talk to, even if it's just a friend. That's why it's so important to be in relationship with people. Because I feel like I could tell you, John, Garfion, I feel like I could tell you guys anything. Yeah. You know? And so I have to keep those men in my life, because when Brother James go through something, and I'm not the type of guy to say, well, my wife said, you okay? Yeah, I'm good. She knows me throughout this entire healing process. You know, my wife always asks me, are you okay? You sure you're okay? You sure you're okay? Because she wanted to know, and I can't hide this stuff from her. If I'm over here with a extreme headache from the surgery, I need to tell her that, not say, no, I'm good. Next thing you know, I'm collapsing on the floor. Yeah. And who do I affect? I affect her. I affect my parents. I affect my kids. I affect friends that I know. I don't need Brother Vaughn to get a call in the middle of the night saying Brother James just passed away, when Brother James could have got this fixed last month. Yeah. You see? So I look at all of that stuff.
That's crucial, man. And, you know, and I think to the point that you were just making about just having these conversations, not only with friends and with yourself, but having men of integrity around me is crucial to me, man. And brothers like you and Brother John here, he says, good to have love from the brethren. Man, I completely co-sign that. Brother Garthion, Brother Lorenzo, Mario, the list goes on, right? And Brother Yarley said, this is so refreshing. I want to pivot just slightly and talk about, see, they say integrity is doing the right thing even when no one else is looking. But I want to say I want to add something to that. There's an African proverb that says, let me see if I can put that up here. That says, where is it at? Show me. All right. When a man says yes, his personal guide says yes also. Now, what does that mean to you? When a man says yes, his personal guide says yes also. Speak to that point. The importance of your yes being a yes, and standing on your square, standing in affirming and being your mind being in alignment with your words, and just kind of speak to the importance of integrity as a man and as a manhood principle.
Right. If I'm in that right relationship with my God has already said yes. So automatically I'm going to say yes. And here's something that I say let me explain that. Is because if my father owned a company, $1 billion company, and I've been working there with him, and all of a sudden he has to go out of town, he said, I'm leaving you in charge. If my father has to call back every 5 minutes to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, then he need to put somebody else in charge. Because by now I should know what to do. So God does not always have to speak to me to know what I'm supposed to do. You know, and I think that a lot of men do that as well. They wait on God to speak. Why are you waiting? You know what's needed in this situation. Go ahead and do it. I don't need God to say, hey, you need to check your oil. I should know how to do it. Hey, you need to go down there and console your daughter. I should know to do that. I've been around you long enough to know what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah, it took a process for me to get here, you know, but at the fact of the matter, I'm here now. And so it is very important that we continue to search and research the path that we're taking, because I'm telling you, this is a killer when men are deciding not to take that responsibility upon themselves. Now, this is not to come against any man. You know where you are in life. You know where you are. You know your state of where you are right now. but it's about you taking care of you first. And it shouldn't take a long time because you got responsibilities around you. Sometimes you got to turn off the football game or whatever it is you watch and actually give yourself some space where you can educate yourself. I'll say this again. When you fail to educate yourself, you allow others to make decisions for you. So you have to sit back and you have to educate yourself to know and be honest with yourself. When you fail to, when you're not honest, one of the worst things you could ever do is not be honest with yourself. When you can be honest with yourself and say, this is what's going on with me, even if you don't admit it to no one else, you have to say, this is what's going on with me.
So you have to sit back and going on with me.
So once you realize that, once you can admit to yourself that I have a problem, that's when the doors will begin to open, because God does not forsake no one. But you have to admit it. What good is God speaking to you if you're not even going to accept it? Just like in AA, you have to first admit before the problem can be solved. And sometimes solving the problem is not always clean. You get just as dirty digging a hole for yourself. You get just as dirty climbing back out of that hole as you did digging into that hole. So you're always going to be met with challenges. But I have to say this, you have to meet these challenges head on. And I know it's easier said than done. From this point on to the time when it's time for me to leave here, I'm going to be learning. I'm going to be educating myself. I'm going to be tuning in to your show, Brother Vaughn, just like I tuned in last week and learned something about finances that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But then after that, it comes downtown to applying this stuff.
Yeah.
And so until we get to the point, and I hope I'm answering your question,
yes,
until we get to that point, we will always stay stuck in a position and will blame society when there are doors, and stop asking God to open doors. The doors are already open.
That's right.
You got to take that responsibility and actually do what's necessary in order to get things done. Brother Vaughn is in Savannah. I'm in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? If I wanted to, I could jump in my car right now and drive to Savannah and talk with him.
Yep.
So it all depends on how bad you really want it. You know, but you have to be honest with yourself first. That's number one. You got to be honest with yourself first and be willing to admit to it.
That's peace, man. You know, man, I hate that we have already lost. This whole hour has gone by, and I got to wind this conversation down. I'm going to definitely have to have you back, man, because you share some serious gems, man, just like I knew you would. Brother James is living proof that we develop our character muscles by overcoming obstacles. And I believe that firmly. This is why I couldn't wait to have you on the show. Give the family some last minute tips on how they can contact you, how they can connect with you, how they can follow your page, your show, etc.
Yeah, well, you can follow me on Facebook. Just look up James Gifford. It'll have Brother James in parentheses. You can go to my TikTok page, which is at Brother James 888. And same thing on my Instagram page. Just look up Brother James, and you'll find me right there on Instagram. I'm currently in the midst of building my website, and because I want to spend the rest of my life helping not just men, women as well, but I'm leaning more towards men when it comes to personal development, and because personal development encompasses everything. And so I'm leaning more to that side right now, just personal development when it comes to men. Stop living by these makeup cliches that we're living by today. That doesn't make any sense. Stop living your life vicariously through some other creator that's done made a statement that's been said for years. This person done made this statement go viral, and many men are following that. You're basically living your life vicariously through somebody else. Deal with the issues that you have. Okay, the woman that you're telling what she brings to the table, she may be bringing something that you need, but you may not necessarily want it. So be careful when you make certain statements, because all you're doing is ruining your chances for being a better version of yourself. And so that's how you can reach me. Like I say, Facebook. I'm kind of changing up things I'm doing now when it comes to my show. So just reach out to me on Facebook, and you'll see right there right there on the left side of my Facebook page, you'll see my Instagram, you'll see my podcast, you'll see my my TikTok page, all these different things. So I just want to empower men. I just want to empower people, man, and because I know we can do better.
Yep. Hey, family, I'm your host and marriage and relationship coach, Vaughn, the Love Alchemist. want to give a special thanks to Brother James for gracing us with his presence and sharing all these gems with us tonight. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. And for that, we are eternally thankful. Love y'all.